Today we have Scott and Marla on our podcast, and we're going to talk about their Tree of Life movement, how that emerged, and their passion behind this movement, and how beautiful and how many miracles actually come from this beautiful gift. So thank you both for being here. Scott and Marla Berger have been designers of fine jewelry for decades and founded the Tree of Life movement in 2012. Marla and Scott were invited to the Windsor Castle as part of the multi-country contingent of visionary thinkers, changed and charged by the royal family, who brainstormed ideas on how to shift consciousness and make change in the world. After returning, the Bergers were made International Leadership Fellows of St. George House and Windsor Castle. Through their family business, Addison Taylor Fine Jewelry, they discovered a way to combine passion for jewelry with devotion to spirituality and humanity. This movement aims to create a global spiritual awakening to connect all souls as one. From the Tree of Life movement, they were able to create the intention stick, which includes 22 intentions to be placed inside the stick, 1 or 3 at a time. When one wears this tool close to their heart, it serves as a reminder of what they want to manifest in life. For every Tree of Life intention stick sold, a tree is planted and a percentage goes to donated charities around the world. Employing Gompers, Arizona, adults with Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, and autism ensures that each package is sealed with love. So thank you both very much for being here. It's just such an honor to be sitting here with both of you, and already just sitting here just preparing, just feeling the warmth of love and heat of good energy and positive vibes of just being able to sit here and be blessed by sharing space and conversation with both of you. And super excited for what will come out of today and what our audience will hear. And thank you.
Thank you for having us.
We feel honored. We feel blessed to be here. So thank you for having us.
Thank you.
We feel honored. Help hold the space.
Gratitude.
Thank you. Thank you. It's I have lovely goosebumps.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, from the moment I met both of you with Matt Gottesman, I was just immediately, I just knew there was a pull for us to have a conversation at some point. And so, again, just excited to be here and to begin to continue actually that conversation, because we've had many. And
our second date.
Our second date, yeah. And we've had lots of online dates.
Yes.
And it's amazing how many, how cross-connected we are with so many, people in our community and what have you. So, thank you for all that you do in the world. And let's kind of jump right in and go back to before Marla and Scott. What were some of the driving or defining factors that created both of you into who you are now today? So there was like this moment before there was a Scott and Marla, and there was this, just this development of who you are that brought you together, that attracted you together, and then to where you are today.
That's good.
That is a really great question.
Oh, it's the journey.
It is the journey. One of the things or exercises that I like to do is to actually look at photographs of ourselves from our past, and I break it down simply by 10 years. So if you look at a photo of yourself at 10 and then 20 and then 30 and so on, if you're older, is to think about those times when you look at that picture. What were you feeling? What were you thinking? What was going on at that time? Did you have fears? What were your experiences? And from there, I write those adjectives down, or whatever the emotions are, and it really, really makes me understand who I am today. So I would say go back to a place of reflection of those times and what was going on, and what is it that you need to know at this time in your life about those experiences.
Sure. What were some of those things for you?
Well, I think a lot of it is what most of our world goes through, which is self-judgment, right? Maybe feeling that I'm not good enough. Do I fit in? Can I achieve this? And as we grow and get to a different place, like in our 20s, we almost get to a place of that it's about us, self-absorption. I'm going to have a good time, those college kind
Sure.
of years. And then 30s was more of, okay, now I have a family, and now I'm a young family. I have to start considering everyone around me.
Sure.
So now you kind of letting go of that it's not about me anymore.
Yeah. When did you guys meet?
Wow. So it was interesting. After U of A, I was taking a grad class at ASU, and I was sitting next to this really wonderful girl and Marla's best friend at the time, and fixed us up on our only blind dates. And this was before social media or online
Sure.
or selfies. So this was a phone call, not with a rotary, but actually push button. So we were talking on the phone, and we decided, all right, we're going to have our first date. And she lived in Tempe, and it was on a Tuesday night because, again, no social media, because if I wasn't all that I was cracked up to be at the time, she didn't want to waste a Friday or a Saturday night.
Sure.
So I
Smart.
pick her up. I come to her apartment Tuesday evening, and I have a rose in my hand, and I have 24 roses behind my back.
Oh.
And we went to go, which was interesting, we went to go see a movie, We're No Angels, with De Niro and Sean Penn.
Yes. Yeah.
And then after, we went to Coffee Plantation on Mill,
Uh-huh.
and we spoke for the entire evening. It was love at first sight. I mean, it was just, we're talking about family. And so unofficially, we were engaged in 3 months. I had a ring on her finger in 6 months. We were married a year and 3 days after we met. And this December 22nd is our 29-year anniversary.
Beautiful.
But she says it feels like 28 years and 11 months.
Sure. Shoot, there was a question there that slipped. Well, I love the beauty of some of those old traditions, and also just it was from that moment when you just sat and talked forever, and there was this connection, this soul connection.
Yes.
And at that point, it's just like, you have great chemistry, and you get along. There's something there. But as you've evolved in your journey, how have you reflected back on looking at that? Your souls were brought together for a purpose.
Oh, yes. And I do believe that. And I was looking for that answer. I really was searching for that answer of what you just brought up.
Yes.
Yes, we have a beautiful family, 4 children, and we've created a business, and we've been blessed with a home, and the things that we need to survive. Yes, and we're blessed for that. However, what was it that we needed to do together for humanity? That's what I was searching for. Why were we brought together at this time? And so, yes, I had been searching for that answer, and I reflect on that time. And what really was the driving force was that Scott continued to talk about his grandparents and how close he was to them. And we spoke probably for 3 hours, 4 hours that night, and he would not stop talking about his family. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what man talks about his family? Like, I had not met anyone who spoke that highly of grandparents.
Yeah.
And I said, oh my goodness, this man loves family. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes me back to remembering the first time I met the mother of I'm going to start calling her the mother of my children, Tammy. It was, we were both 16. She was coming, I was best friends with her brother. And we were in a private school where I grew up. And her and her family were coming to visit him. And I knew they were coming to visit, and I was excited to meet the rest of his family. And the moment she stepped out of the van, I can still remember the jacket she was wearing, what she looked like, just there was this instant,
Yes.
We're gonna have something together. And it was kind of like that exploration of those long conversations just would never stop. And
Yes.
we were young when we met, but then years later, actually just almost 2 years ago, I think, I was in a meditation. And I was in this conversation. I could see that I was talking to my kids, or to our kids, and then there was another voice talking in the conversation, but I didn't see it because I was looking down. I was my kids were young in this meditation, this vision, and then suddenly I looked up, and it was the mother of my kids, Tammy. And then I went, and she was an angel. And I went back to that moment when we first met. And at the words that came out of my mouth the first time I saw her, the first thought I had was, she's an angel. And it was just so surreal. Like, okay, we had, and this conversation that we were having in this meditation was about what our soul agreements were coming into this lifetime, how we would learn lessons from each other.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it was so beautiful. Just, and it gave me so much peace and made like all the anything else, the forgiveness that needed to be there, or anything else that was there, like just completely disappear. Just open up a space for love and compassion for where they're at in their journey individually, where I'm at in my journey, and how we collectively support each other in this journey. I think that's oftentimes, other than siblings and parents, it's like it's the closest thing that you have in like these life lessons. Really appreciating family for that reason.
In Judaism, the Hebrew word is beshert, that it comes from above, that we were brought together. Like this meeting today, or when we first met, we say that was beshert. And that question you just asked, Marla, it's so profound, because when this really evolved, that aha moment when we both knew why we were brought into our lives is when I designed the Tree of Life pendant for our 21-year anniversary almost 8 years ago. And that's when she said that was the most beautiful thing I'd ever given her. Not because of the jewelry, but the spiritual meaning of the Tree of Life. And I had engraved all 4 of our children's names on the back in Hebrew with the number 21. And she said, that's it. And I'm like, what? And she says, that's what I waited 21 years for. And I didn't get it at first. It wasn't yet that lightning bolt, because, as you just said, yes, blessed with 4 beautiful children, health, home, business. But she says 2 souls are brought together in this lifetime for a bigger purpose and a divine reason. And the Tree of Life was it. And then that lightning bolt hit, and we came up with our mantra, changing the world one tree at a time. We become one. Because we know there's no black, white, pink, yellow. There's no Christian, Jewish, Buddhist. We're all the same. Our souls are the same.
Yeah, and I think it's so often in our busy world that it's like to be able to stop and reflect just for a moment. It's like, this is where this started. This is where we came from.
Yes.
And even, it's kind of the same thing when I talk about suicide awareness. It's for people who have attempted suicide, it's going back to that moment where something stopped, something changed, where they did not complete the deed that saved them. There's that moment of salvation, there's that moment of transformation that happens that rarely we get to talk about because it's so forgotten. The shame of not being able to talk about, I've attempted suicide, or whatever else is there. That it's like going back to that moment. There's something there that saved you. There was a voice. There was a sign. There was something that saved you in that moment, and that's transformation. And that's what has pulled you forward into this where you're at now.
Yes.
And it's like so important to go back, and those I don't know. The words that were about to come out of my mouth was like those God moments almost.
Yes.
It's like God speaking to us, and are we listening?
Well, you hear stories like this when people share when they're going through their struggles of what you're talking about, where it could just be someone smiled at them. They were looking for a sign that just said, just show me something.
Right.
Yeah.
Just show
that I
once.
exist.
That's right. And that's why it's so important to acknowledge someone else, right?
It's so
because you
important.
just don't know what that person is going through.
Yeah.
And everyone in this world right now is going through something, and if they're not, they're lying. We don't accept, I'm fine.
No,
How are you on
there's
fine?
a few words that I don't like, and that's one of them.
Yes,
Another
well-
one is like, if I'll ask a question, somebody will say, sure. Because there's something so indefinite about that. There's something else that's not being communicated. It's like, it's like, no, like, what is it that you're feeling? What is it that's there? Like, feel free to articulate and be comfortable with being uncomfortable in that conversation, or that communication. That's where growth happens.
That's where growth, and that's why we also don't believe in the word hope.
Yeah.
Right? The same thing, because hope is always
I haven't even heard that word in so long.
Right,
It's
because
funny even
we
hearing that.
don't.
Even though it's a beautiful word.
It is,
It's in
yeah.
the
It leaves
Bible, it's in the
uncertainty.
Torah.
It leaves
Right.
a sense of doubt.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I know before we started recording today, not to venture off of that, but it's kind of a segue into, you have something that you wanted to share around suicide awareness or something along those lines. You didn't divulge anything, so I'm not exactly sure how to bump
You're
into
throwing
that.
us under the bus.
But since we're here, let's chat a little bit about that. Tell me.
Wow. So this.
And I know we haven't even jumped into
I
like
know, it's
really about Tree of
okay.
Life or whatever, but
So
we'll
it's
kind of
okay.
bounce back into that.
Right. We'll have to go
Yeah.
back, but
Be full circle.
you know, again, everyone in this world has been affected by suicide, and whether it's a friend of a friend, whether it's family, whether, again, we see it happening every day. It's the largest epidemic in the world
Yeah.
right now. Far exceeds the opioid and
Yeah.
drinking, whatever you want. It's just it's horrible.
Yeah.
And so when Marla and I first received this gift to share with the world, we knew that this was to help not just everyone in the world, but also these children. And we knew that we had to work on things that will prevent teen suicide or suicide in young adults or even adults, as we still see every day. And we've been working on this part of the project of the Tree of Life movement for almost 2 years. And literally, it was kind of validated when we were in California about a month and a half ago for a beautiful gathering with beautiful souls, and a movement that another group is putting out globally for teen suicide prevention.
Mm-hmm.
So we shared with them, we've been working on a recyclable silicone one in pure white, because
Beautiful.
the purity of the vessel. We're all vessels, right?
Yeah.
And spiritual leaders, yogis, religious leaders, when we come for high holidays, we wear that pure white to receive from above, right?
Yep.
So in the word charity, or the word tzedakah, is that when we give something, when we give these intention sticks to these children, that they'll be able to also give another child an intention stick. So we had to make this, even though the stainless ones were affordable for the world with a spiritual meaning, we haven't even gotten there yet, but this is even much less, with everything still staying the same, the packaging, the purity, the integrity. Again, it has nothing to do with a piece of jewelry.
Right, yeah.
As Marla says, it's worn on the inside.
So many miracles have backed that up.
So I don't know how much we want to share.
Well, it's the thing about this intention stick is that when you can give this to someone, you are giving them their power back. That we are powerful beings, and we forget that. And when you can,
All of us are.
all of us are.
Because we're all made.
Right, I am that I am.
Yeah.
And that's what this intention stick
Yeah.
is, right? It is I
Remembering.
am that I am.
Yeah.
And remembering that we do have the power within us. And that when you can give this to someone or to yourself, and what is it doing? Is it's filling yourself back up with love, right? That you are loved, that you do matter, you do have purpose. And that's
And
what
you're
we are.
just as important
That's
as
right.
anyone else in this
And that's
world.
what we're forgetting, and why we get to that place.
Beautiful.
It's so not only will these beautiful children that are going through something receive theirs, but then they'll be able to.
Which is such a powerful exchange of being able to have something to offer
Yes.
in someone else. I
Right.
don't even think we realize how. I mean, and we all, it doesn't have to be even a piece of jewelry, but there's always, whether it's a smile, like we talked about earlier, when
That's
you
right.
were walking down the street.
Right.
I remember a couple of weeks ago, I was walking out of my apartment, and I actually had my headset on, but the person next that was about to pass me didn't see that I had my headset on, and I was answering a call at the same time. I was like, "Hi, how are you doing?" And as he was like, "I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you?" But it was like,
Right.
whether it was intentional for him or not, I kind of just giggled as I walked by, and it was
That's
like,
great.
"That's so great!" Like,
Divine timing.
yeah, like,
no
and
coincidence.
I've seen him a couple times walking down the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And if anything, it put a little smile on his face, just like, again, just being acknowledged and known.
That's right.
It's
Because
so
isn't that
important.
what we're here to do?
Yeah.
Right? Is that to acknowledge ourselves, right? And to understand that we exist. And then once we understand that we exist, that now we're here to serve, like you
Yeah.
just said, to touch someone else.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, people don't know how to do that. At the end of our day, when we conclude our day, and I share this with the kids too, our children, what have you done for humanity today?
Yes.
What have you
It's a
done?
great question to ask every single
Every
day.
single
Absolutely.
day.
And start being
And
mindful of it.
I am very mindful. One of the things that we do every morning is we walk. We walk to connect with nature and to contemplate. And when I walk, I'm already setting my intention that I will make sure that I say good morning to at least 5 people along my walk, to acknowledge the
Always,
people on my
absolutely.
walk. And
It's one of my favorite things to do when I'm hiking or anytime.
Always say hi.
Always say hi.
Because you're
And
putting that light and love
I'll
out.
usually have it be something it's not like a hi or a hello, but it's really like good morning.
yes,
Or something
Yes.
like really to get there, like
Because
stop
we
for
don't
a
use the
moment.
word hello
that's
anymore.
right.
Yes.
We don't like hello.
Yeah.
Yes, we say good morning.
So
yes, or
back
hi.
2 things. Back to your question when you say how are you, and someone says, "Well, I'm fine," or sure, something like
Yeah.
that. So Marla and I always answer. We always answer blessed, right? Because we
There's
are.
so many ways, and that again, like goes back
We
to
open
being
our
mindful. Open your eyes, it's like
have a
listening.
roof. We have a-
There's so much
Yes.
to be grateful for, and just a simple shift of context and how you even respond in language, which is so much of the inspiration behind this app and why I created it was
Yes.
specifically like to disrupt your thoughts that are there that no longer serve you, and start replacing those and implementing or
Yes.
putting in all the thoughts and the I ams that actually do serve who your soul is and your true self.
And the really important part of your question, you asked about these children and what this is doing. Again, because we're not always there next to that child or that person or that doctor or the therapist or the motivational speaker, because yes, they get filled up and they leave, and maybe they're filled up for a month, a week, a day, but this is always there, that tool, that reminder that always brings them home, so to speak, that yes, we're always tested. The bad ego,
Yeah.
the fear is always
Yeah.
messing with this.
Yeah.
That's that tool, that reminder to know, as Marla said, we are loved. We do matter. We do have purpose.
And then what's the one thing that you do around this every day that always keeps that energy flowing regardless of, I've had my attention stick for a long time,
Yes.
but there's something you could do every day. Say a little bit about that.
Setting our intention.
That
or-
and also just the blessing that goes with
so
all
well,
the intention sticks that have gone out.
Yes, so that's it's an honor, because when someone either comes to the office or we're sitting here or we're speaking in front of rooms or wherever, that we hold each intention stick, or the group that are holding the intention sticks, we have the entire room stand up and hold hands, and we share the blessings with each and every one, because it's, as you know, laws of attraction, right? What goes up comes down. What we think about, we bring about. But what we put out from our hearts comes back in. It's actually the 3rd law of physics. It's science. It's not the woo-woo.
It's so powerful.
So we will take and hold each intention stick with that person. Do you want me to share the blessing? Or
Sure,
Well, I
yeah. Or
thought
do you
we
want
would
to
do
say
it
that
at
for
the
the
end.
end?
Oh, we'll do
Yeah,
that at
I
the
was
end.
gonna-
Yeah,
that's
for
what I'm-
all of the
right.
beautiful
Yeah,
listeners.
yeah.
But
Beautiful.
when
We'll
we
end like
do
that, so
those,
remind me in case I forget, yeah.
when we do those blessings or prayers, they're already being received even before the intention stick is put on.
For sure.
And what I love that Marla has shared is that every one of the intention sticks has its own heartbeat. It becomes a part of you. And it's
Our words are very powerful. And I actually just had a conversation with my sister who deals with mental behavioral. She has bipolar disorder and some other issues. And she called me and she says, I'm depressed. I said, what did you say? She says, I'm depressed.
Yeah.
And I said, did you even understand what just came out of your mouth? I
Sure.
said, let's rephrase this. I said, because your words are so powerful. So if you're saying I'm depressed, guess what comes back
You're
to
attracting
you?
more of that.
You are attracting more of that, right?
So how would you rephrase that?
So, well, I said to her, let's go back. Let's take a step back and think about the intentions you want to set for yourself. What is it that you want to attract to yourself? Do you need more happiness? Do you need more strength? Do you need more courage? Do you need more love? That's what you want to bring back. That's what will elevate.
What's something tangible then that she can hold on to remember to do that inside of the depression?
Well, the intention stick.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
what I do, if I find myself because we're all human, and we're always being tested. But if you put out that I'm going to get through this, we just talked about this, putting it out with ease and love and joy, that everything, whether it is pain or obstacle or challenge, if you know and understand that I'm going to get through this with ease and love and joy, then just hold on to it.
It's just setting that different intention.
That's right.
And stopping for a moment.
And that's what's going to come back in. But if we get caught up in that storm of depression and anger and frustration and stress and worry, then that's what's going to keep
And I say, like, when you find that you're caught up in that, the moment you can recognize that you are caught up in that, like, shift your energy, like go for a walk, like get up and move, do some jumping jacks, jump up and down, scream and holler, like something to move and shift that, like.
Yes,
like that
so
emotion
important.
is out of, you got to be in. Tony Robbins talks about that. It's like you got to be in motion to shift your emotions.
Absolutely,
and it's very powerful.
And you know what? And moving is so important because it's actually what helps us with our decision making, right? People think, oh, I'm so tired because I worked out or I exercised. It's not from the physical activity that you're getting tired. It's because the idea of the mental capacity of not being able to. Have you ever been with someone and they're like, well, I don't know where I want to go. Well, I don't know where I want to go. And I don't know what I want to eat. And I don't know. And that's
be with a group of Pisces. That's
but a lot of that has to do
Pisces,
with
I know.
you just move. When you start moving, it'll flow. The energy will move. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, you guys have some really powerful principles that go along with, and I see like there's an alignment between knowing what are your core principles for yourself and then also aligning your vision and your goals, whether it's goal setting or like what do you want to do in your life, something like that. So talk a little bit about that, about your principles that you have set up and how does that relate to goal setting?
Talking about our 9 guiding principles?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's as we say,
and I like that there's 9 of them.
Yes,
because,
of course, vibration.
And we actually, what we like to talk about more so is intention versus goals, or your aim, right? And that if you're going to have a goal, sometimes the goal doesn't always see the end, right? But when you intend or aim something to happen, it's like your life depends on it, right? Yeah. So that's why these principles are important. It supports the intention or the aim that we're seeking.
Yeah.
And as we always start, or to share our 9 guiding principles, it starts with intention. And as you know, we share when we're living a life of intention, we're living a meaningful and purposeful life.
Yeah, perfect.
And when we're not, it's like, as Marla says, I love your analogy.
Oh, it's like getting into a car and not having a destination, right? How do we know where we're going and how do we know what we want when we get there?
We're scheduling a vacation and then having no idea where you're actually going.
Exactly.
Right. Our second principle is love. It's the most difficult thing to achieve in this lifetime, which this world doesn't remember.
Is that?
Unconditional love. Unconditional.
Why do you say it's the most difficult thing for us to achieve?
One, most of this world doesn't even know what the word unconditional love means. And what does it say in every spiritual or religious book in the world? It says, love your brother and your sister like you love yourself. But if we don't truly love who we are, not out of ego or vanity, but truly love because we are perfect exactly how we are, or as Marla and I share, to even look in the mirror and say, I love you to yourself. We don't understand that because, and we can't, we say our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents did the best they knew how to raise us in the best way they could. So we can't blame them for not us, but that we must do because we cannot possibly give what we do not have.
Well, we're taught when we're young, right? You're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not handsome enough. Those are the things that are
dumb, you're stupid.
It's programming your sheep in the herd.
So you cannot possibly give love away if you do not have love for yourself. You cannot give peace away if you
I think
don't
it's that
have
lifelong
peace.
journey too. Just
Yes.
like continuing to evolve that love for yourself to be able to give it away.
And that is the
Or to
tree, and that
experience
is the
it.
tree of life,
Yeah.
by the way.
Oh, is it?
The tree of life is the evolution of consciousness,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
the expansion of our soul,
Yeah.
and it's just what you said, that every day it's peeling the layers, because
Yeah.
every day we're growing, we're experiencing, we're
Every
learning.
single day.
Yes.
If you're breathing, you're still growing.
It is the most difficult thing to achieve, and you know, if Marla and I say to you, Jesse, I love you, you know that it's true in our heart. It's not
Right.
the, oh, I love you, kiss, kiss, have
Yeah.
a nice day. But
Yeah.
but unconditional love also has to do with seeing everyone the same.
Yeah.
There's no judgment. One, we're not judged, so who are we to look at another person?
Do you remember when that? I remember like where there was a shift for me when I started to understand the difference between the word love. Like before, it was only a word that I would ever use like for my family or for my kids or for my
Right.
wife. But then there was a moment I was like, oh, actually, love is much, much bigger than that. Do you remember when that
Right.
shift was for you when you started to notice that? About what age you were? Or
I know.
what was
I think
happening?
I truly. Well, I've always loved. That's just who I've been, even through my life and the many challenges, even as a child. You know, going through horrific things. But no matter what, I always put that out. You know, people are like, you know, what are you on, or why you can't always be this happy, and it's like, of course you can. What's the other choice? To let life or people suck the light out of you? So no matter what, that was just who I had always been. So, and not to complain or point fingers, but as we were talking about earlier, the things that happen in our lives happen for us. It's a gift. Everything, as hard as that may seem, whether you were abused as a child, or you were, you know,
Lost
ridiculed,
loved
or
ones.
you were screwed out of business, whatever it may be, these are things that happen for us, and everything that happens in our life is a gift. And when we realize finally that these things brought us to where we need to be, or makes us who we are in our life right now, wow.
And being responsible for that, we attracted all of those into our lives for our own
Absolutely.
growth and evolution.
That's right.
Like it's not
Absolutely.
like this happened to me. It's no, I attracted this into my life. I can be responsible for that and own that, and it's part of my growth.
Well, we asked to come back here in this lifetime,
Yeah.
and we asked for our soul's growth in this
Specifically
lifetime,
for what we want.
specifically, exactly, for those specific reasons, right? We chose the family, the soul group, all of it for the specific gifts that Scott's
Yes.
talking
Yeah.
about.
And everything's a gift.
Everything
But
is a gift.
people, this world doesn't understand that. But why am I? This is
They're starting
happening to
to.
me, or it's sickness, or it's again, as hard as that may sound to share with someone that is going through something horrific.
Yeah.
But when they can really understand and realize why maybe they received that sickness or those obstacles or challenges,
Or even if
they
the seed is
shift.
planted that everything does happen for me, then when you're in the middle of those sometimes horrific situations, you can remember that and you can start to look for, okay, even though I don't see it now, what is the gift in all of this? Help me to see that when the time is ready.
Beautiful.
Because there's something, there's
Beautifully
always,
said, yes.
yeah. So I think it's, you know, it's like planting that seed, because that just that concept alone is so, I think, is equally challenging as
It
love.
absolutely
Is being responsible for the fact that you have attracted this into your life. It is part of your soul growth. And how can I look at it not from a victim standpoint, or why is this happening to me, but really like, gosh, thank you for the gift.
Yes, because we don't get to pick and choose
No. And
what comes into our life.
and when you can come, for myself, I've noticed, like when I can come more from asking what is the gift in this, then it has me always looking for also what is the gift.
Right.
And so it helps, for me, I've noticed that it helps me move through challenges a lot faster because of that.
Yes.
Yeah. Like,
And
what was the third one?
There's this is number 3. It's gratitude.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And
Yeah.
gratitude is a state we live in every second of the day. And
It actually, we just touched on it,
Yeah.
really.
It's so funny because this morning I was sitting there, I was coaching a friend of mine, and she was talking about self-love. Like, we're sitting right here talking about this. The same conversation I was having this morning on the phone.
of course,
And, you know, she was relaying how, like, you know, she would attract these kind of relationships, and then she'd be like, oh, you know, like, what the F is wrong with me, or like I'm such a, whatever, and saying all these negative things. I'm like, you know what I do when I remember I used to be the same way. And what I've immediately switched to is I immediately just switched to gratitude. Like, thank you that this person isn't responding to me, that I'm being saved for something. I may not see yet what that is, but thank you that they're not texting me back or they're not want to be in a relationship with me, because right now they're not worthy of the energy that I'm in right now. We're in two different energies.
And even take it back a step further, as Marla and I, when we opened our eyes this morning, meaning think about how many people don't wake up. We have a roof over our heads,
or that we can open our eyes
we have
and
a
see.
Bed, right?
Yeah.
We can actually get out of bed. We have water.
So
when you can
much.
just remember one or two things every day, and
I mean, there's so many things that you can be grateful for just from the time you wake up to going to the bathroom.
Right.
I mean, even if you, not that you want to smell your breath, but I mean, if you want to put your hands over it just to feel your breath,
but this is what
that you're
this
breathing,
world doesn't understand, to live a life
oxygen.
of gratitude and how blessed they are, and they're still worrying about, but I don't have, and this and that. They're so blessed, and when you can realize that, wow.
Yeah, and I talk a lot. I mean, it's on the website and throughout. I mean, it's part of on the app is the whole gratitude journal. So every morning it's like doing 4 gratitudes when you wake up. Every evening 4 gratitudes before.
And you know what
go to bed.
that's doing for you? It's like
it's
taking
attracting more and more.
Yes. And it's, for me, I would say, in addition to what you're talking about, is that it's like taking a dose of antidepressants, right? I mean,
going back to absolutely.
Yeah.
It completely, for me, has been the elixir to shifting immediately from whatever I may be pissed off or upset or angry about to immediately being gratitude. Shifts it right back to I can find something to be grateful for, which then brings back happiness to me and gets me back in alignment.
And what's interesting, we say, what's the most difficult thing to achieve in this life is love, unconditional love. And even though this is our 4th principle, the second hardest thing to do in this life is to forgive. Because everyone is holding on to something. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. They just keep pushing it down. I'm fine. And as Marla and I have learned with working with all the different doctors around the world, or oncologists or cancer patients or different types of sickness, if we don't learn to forgive and let that crap go and send it with love, those things turn into thoughts. The thoughts turn into sickness, and the sickness turns into disease. And these beautiful doctors are sharing with us, even if we surgically remove that sickness or treat it with medicine or chemo or radiation, that sickness could come back, and it could come back with a vengeance, because it's not what caused the sickness in the first place. So you have to let it go.
It doesn't serve you.
No.
anymore.
It doesn't. So I mean, that's what I've seen in my 19 years of practice, just working on bodies as a healer. That's what I really, in the last few years, almost the last 5 years, that's what I've shifted more to, is that specific intention of letting it get out of your body, because that's where all the stress and all the disease is coming from in your body. Is just whatever those thoughts were that created the emotions and the thoughts that created the stress that's there now.
And I always leave with, what have you learned from it?
Yeah.
What did you receive from it?
From the forgiveness or from the situation?
From the situation, and then let it go. It no longer serves you at this time.
Yeah.
But it made you who you are today. It brought you to this place.
No, I mean, forgiveness it seems like there's layers to forgiveness. At least I've noticed that for myself. Like, I know when I was working on forgiveness and just working on anger overall, knowing kind of where it was directed towards my dad, my stepdad, and it was about a 10-year process of consciously working on releasing that and forgiveness for both of them. And the moment I got to 10 years of doing that, it was like actually 10 years March to March 2016. The moment I got to that point where I could just completely have love and compassion for both my dad and my stepdad, and just remember who they were even as young boys and what they had to deal with, and then they did the best they could.
That's what we did.
It completely just erased anything I had goosebumps. And then the next time I went back to do a similar exercise like that, both my dad and my stepdad had both passed away, and they both showed up holding hands, as angels,
Yeah.
and they both said, "We're here to support you, whatever,
Right.
whatever
think
your
of-
journey
We
is
can't
now."
blame them.
And I would have never. I mean, that never showed up before that.
No,
you
but
know?
but think about the cycle you just broke.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, and we have
Well-
and we can make those choices for us. We do have the ability to either walk the path positive or negatively.
And it also, like, I think, and for myself, why I do so much personal growth is because I know that it impacts my past ancestors as well as my future.
Yes.
And I do so much of the work I do specifically for that because I know my son came to me one day. He was, I don't know, like 16 or 17. And he's like, "I'm angry." And I don't even know why I'm angry. He might have been a little bit older. And I'm like, because it's not your anger.
Right.
I mean, you inherited it from me. I
Yeah.
inherited it from I mean, it's like we
Yeah.
passed it on. From
It's seven generation.
to
It's seven generation.
Right.
It's there's the study of the cows. Where they have the fence up. That if a cow walks over to it, it gets electrocuted. And they've done studies that it goes back 7 generations. That by that 7th generation, the cow knows not to go
Not
to the
to do it.
fence,
Wow.
not to go to the fence because it knows it's going to receive.
Well, I think it's so
So-
important to give ourselves a little bit of a break, to realize that so much of what we are dealing with isn't ours, that we've inherited it. And it's not to place blame on our mother, our father, our ancestors, but it's just part of the lineage.
That also
That can be broken.
That can be broken. We just talked about that too with regards to depression. Sometimes
Yes.
it's not yours either,
Yeah.
right? It could be that when the mother was pregnant, she was
It's-
going through
yeah.
something.
Which I think
and
is a good then, like another one of those pause moments, is to sit there and ask yourself, is this mine?
Right. Well,
Why am I declaring that I'm depressed, or why am I declaring this? Is it really mine, or does it even really serve me? What else can I actually declare is mine?
It's interesting because, yes, we have to forgive others and let that go. But what Marla and I see is that we have to forgive ourselves. We're sometimes our own worst enemies. We are the ones that continuously beat ourselves up, and we have to ask forgiveness.
yes,
Yeah.
for our honest mistakes. For our honest
Absolutely.
mistakes.
Yeah.
Or for all the things we don't even know that we do as
That's,
well.
that's why I
No,
say the honest
again.
mistakes, and also
it's
for the
okay
things
'cause-
we haven't done, and
Yeah.
also
Right.
for the things we haven't done.
Yeah.
So we have to forgive us, which is not ever even spoken about.
No, I used the Ho'oponopono
Yeah, of
specifically
course.
for
I love
that
you.
because
I'm
it's
sorry.
so powerful.
Please forgive me and
And even
thank
just
you.
starting with my own
Yes.
body, like, my gosh, how much have I neglected you over the years?
Right.
Like,
But
just
those
simply
words are
starting
so
with that,
powerful.
so
Think
powerful.
about what the Ho'oponopono is. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Yeah.
Right? You have to thank you
Yeah.
for that. It's very powerful. And that's
And I
the-
add in at the end, after I've done that a number of times, I release you.
Yes,
Go back
absolutely.
out into the
Right.
void.
Because everything was a gift.
Yeah.
Again, gift.
Yeah. It's not ours to hold on to.
No.
Even whatever it is that we're going through. Yeah.
Think
Yeah.
about the power of that
Yeah.
prayer that you're
Oh.
putting out to humanity and what is being received.
Unbelievable.
It is my go-to, honestly. Like, it is my go-to tool for the moment I notice that I have two go-tos. One is gratitude, and one is the Ho'oponopono. If I can't think of anything, I'll just immediately switch to I love you, thank you, please forgive me.
And by the way, that is the prayer I taught my sister that I remember that I just brought up about.
Yeah.
I tell her to say that prayer.
Over and over and over. I've seen it heal so many relationships, and it's just, I've seen it physically. I'll set my clients up actually on the table, and that's part of their intake of their preparation for their sessions, is to go to my website, review the Ho'oponopono, and for them to be saying that to themselves while I'm working on them. Because I do it the whole time I'm working on my head. I'm just going over and over and over. And then, but I've seen energetically, like when the two are together, like when they're doing it and then I'm also doing it, it's like what we accomplish in a session is so much faster and so much more powerful because of that, the power behind the meditation and the prayer.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, what's the
Of
fifth
course,
one?
health.
Health, yes. We're transitioning to every one of these perfectly. That's
100%,
funny.
because we have to take care of our
Yeah.
vessels. We're all vessels. And if we're not feeding our vessels, whether it's physically with food or nutrition, but also spiritually or religiously, whatever that is for that
Yeah,
person.
and there's so many aspects to health too,
Right.
physically,
Yes, and
emotionally, spiritually.
Mentally.
and we are
Mentally.
seeing in this world today that basically every vessel is broken, and that light leaks out. So we have to start from within, as we know, to heal our own body, both mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever that is, so we can continue to give, right? Because as Marla and I share in the old beautiful analogy, if we're flying and an oxygen mask drops, what does it say? Take for yourself first, then help others. I said help, that's funny. Then
That was
help others. So we cannot possibly give what we do not have. So we have to repair our own vessels. It's so important.
So important. So then it goes back to a reminder that I have then, and it almost ties all that we've talked about so far. So when it comes to this particular aspect, is oftentimes, and anyone who knows me knows that this is one of my one of my coaching tips when it comes to this particular conversation, is go spend time with yourself naked in front of the mirror, and sit there and just like look in your eyes, just connect in your own eyes, but also give gratitude for
It's
your
funny,
entire
so that I did that this
body.
morning. Right, and I said,
Fall in love
you.
with your legs. Fall in love with your toes. Fall in love with your hands.
Absolutely. And those,
Not out of ego, vanity,
No,
but just
yeah.
to love. Again, I am that I am, because you are perfect
Yeah.
exactly how you were made.
And how you mind things.
Yes.
Your mental capacity, even when you're sitting there looking at yourself in the mirror. It's so funny when I'm going to have mirrors all over my house for that very reason. And it's not for me to, oftentimes it's because I'm looking at myself, but it also stops as a constant reminder to like, hey, stop, pause, look. It's the reflection back to me. It's the only way I get to look and pause for a moment, look into my eyes. And it's so funny when I sit there for a moment, and I'll usually giggle when I just sit there and look for just a moment and connect with myself, and I'll say silly little things to myself.
that's beautiful. The other thing that I would add to looking at yourself and connecting to your body is also when you're going through a pain or something happened within your body, then connect to that body part and send that body part love and thank it for all the hard work that it's been doing. And I know that sounds a little, sometimes it sounds a little
No.
kooky.
It
What do you
has-
mean send love? Put your hand on that place
Absolutely.
of where you're receiving pain.
Because the
And
energy from your
that's
hands and your heart.
And love it.
And if it's too difficult even to do that, I add to it. If it's too difficult to do that, find somewhere else in your body that
Right.
you can do it, because then you're also. It's how I have completely gotten rid of ever getting the flu. Is that the moment I start to notice even the symptoms
Yeah.
of I'm feeling a particular way, I just immediately start giving gratitude for my health, for every part of
Absolutely. Thank you
like
for
how I'm
working
sleeping,
so
the water that I'm
hard.
drinking, anything else with my
Ground
body. Like,
yourself.
yeah.
People don't,
Yeah.
again, it's not the normal conversations that are taught.
But
in this
whatever
world.
you're thinking about, you're going to attract more, like we talked about. So
right.
if you're thinking about, my throat's getting sore, or
Right.
whatever, even with
Nope.
eyes, like I struggle really with the fact that I had to start wearing glasses. But I look back and see what my, a common thing that I would always say is like, I just don't see it. And it wasn't that I couldn't see with my eyes because I had perfect vision. But what is the language you're saying?
What is the language?
Your body is
Goes
listening
back
to you.
That's right. Goes back
So-
to the words are your
or
words
somebody
are
that
powerful.
says, I can't stand it. What's going to happen over time is your legs are going to give way, or your knees are going to
Yeah.
give way, your ankles are going to give way.
It's the
You
old
can't stand
adage.
it.
It's the old adage, right? Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But are we listening to what we're saying?
That's it.
This is the
Because some people
going
say
back
that
to the
they'll say,
power of words.
I never wished for that.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
But you
Oh,
said
go
yeah.
back,
it.
go back and really look
Because
at
we're
those.
so not
Yes.
aware of what we're saying.
It's right.
And that was, again, it's like going back to, you have to have some of your go-tos.
Absolutely.
Write out a list of I am declarations, or just shift back to gratitude, or shift back to the Ho'oponopono, which is what I do. Immediately shifts me out of whatever conversation I've been in that just don't serve me. But again, it's listening to those little bite-sized moments, those pause moments, those God moments.
And you know why I'm
because there's so much
smiling.
lessons.
That's
in
great.
There.
No,
No,
I'm smiling because what's the next principle?
oh, what is the next?
Trust.
Yeah, trusting the process.
Trust,
Trust.
because
Yeah.
and that's the most
Goosebumps
important
again.
thing.
That's
Because
so
if we
funny.
don't trust the journey,
Yeah.
nothing else matters. And Marla and I say, if we would really understand who's walking by our side, our soul, we would live fearlessly.
How have you learned to trust?
It's with all my being. I mean, you have
But
to.
how did you? Were there particular lessons that happened that caused you to start? Oh, I can trust. Because I know it was something that I had to develop.
Yes, of
was
course.
learning how to
Of-
trust.
It's
Sure.
interesting. I feel, I'm speaking for myself, that I've always trusted the journey, knowing, yes, I'm being watched over or guided.
Is that from your faith and religion, just from growing up?
No, but the funny thing is
practice?
I was born, even though raised Jewish, but completely reformed, other than a bar mitzvah and high holidays. I wasn't really taught that, other than, it's in the DNA of all of us. We're all from the 12 tribes. I mean, we all stood as one. And it's just something that's always been with me, just knowing everything's going to be okay. And we forget about that because, again, the bad ego and the fear is always trying to control our heart and soul. And when we can trust that everything happens exactly the way it should and it's always working out for us, wow. Again,
Always.
we just forget to.
You can't force that round peg in the square hole, right?
You can't.
And
You're right.
Right. So we laugh and giggle because one of the jokes we like to share is, how do you make God laugh?
You know this question?
No.
How do you make God?
Well, you got to preface
No.
it. Okay, you're so cute. No, like that.
How do you make God laugh? Telling him your plans.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
And so that's why we laugh and giggle, because we might put out what we think should happen, right? And it doesn't always take us down that. It rarely takes us on that path.
Right.
So we trust in the journey.
Yeah.
We know it's going to happen exactly the way it needs to.
I think it still doesn't, there could be someone listening that's like, oh, okay, well then I'm just gonna let it all. No, there's still it still requires some action. There's still some action that you're taking, and action is relative. Maybe it's meditating, maybe it's picking up the phone, maybe it's actually going to there's lots of actions to take, but there's allowing and surrendering and trusting the process.
Oh,
and
yes.
But it's not just sitting back and oh, okay, well, I'll just I have no control over, so I'm not going to set any. I was that way. I mean, in the religion that I grew up in, the world was ending at by the time I would turn 17. The world would be ending as I knew it. So I made no plans for the future whatsoever. I didn't plan to go to school. I didn't plan to go to college. I planned nothing for the future because I knew my life was ending at 17.
Wow.
And there's no way to live.
Right.
Because you're living in fear.
Yeah.
Which is what this whole world is based on right now.
Yeah.
It's all coming from fear versus love. But what I love you just shared is that, yes, even though growing up really just very reformed to say the least, but your soul thirsts that, whether it's religion or spirituality, it's why are billionaires taking their lives? Because they're so empty inside. So our souls are always thirsting for that, whether you say religion or spirituality. And one has nothing to do with the other. Religion has nothing to do with spirituality. Religion is your faith. It's maybe what you grew up knowing because of your family roots. Spirituality is something completely different. So I was on that journey from reform to seeing the beauty of the religion and became very religious, but then saw in my own eyes, and also from Marla sharing, because she was brought up very orthodox but more forced into, you have to go and you can't do, and very, very, very extreme. But I started to see the beauty of the religion, but then I started to get really sucked in, because if I'm not going to synagogue or church or temple, you're not a good Jew, you're not a good Christian, you're not a good Muslim, you're not. And all of a sudden it was fear-based. So I had to literally get smacked in the face, so to speak, to let go of those reins, to understand it was controlling not only my life, but now it was controlling or trying to control my family, my wife, and my kids, and which is not fair, because I'm now putting that onto them, which is not them.
No, but it even you can take it even further and just to our day-to-day lives too. I was just thinking about that, how many judgments we put even on ourselves, oh, I have to go to the gym, or I missed the gym today, so I can't eat this because it's going to make me fat, or if I don't go to the gym, I'm going to get fat. All these judgments that we have that are placed by from where?
I shared this yesterday. We have many spiritual and religious leaders come to our office daily, and I had a rabbi come yesterday, and we were sharing a story. And I'll never forget this. Marla and I were in Jerusalem, and I was doing prayers at the wall. And I was just wearing, pants and a shirt, and I'm, wrapping tefillin, and my talis, the shawl I'm wearing, and I'm wearing a yarmulke, and I'm praying. And very powerful, by the way. Everyone in this world should be there to experience, because this is where every religion stems from. But I looked down the wall and I saw another man davening that was obviously very orthodox, black hat, long beard, just very religious, that's looking at me like I'm not even Jewish, which is what this world, in here we're reading these prayers, whether it's from the Bible or the Quran or the Torah, that again says every morning, love your brother and your sister like you love yourself. And you're reading these words, but yet you're looking at another person and you're judging. One, as I said, we're not judged. Who are we to look at another person in this world and think less or more? We're all brothers and sisters. And this is the programming that is fear-based, that you're not religious enough, you're not spiritual enough, you're not dressed a certain way, you don't look a certain enough, being a sheep in the herd.
Yeah. And I think, again, it goes back to, I've not brought this up ever before, but it keeps coming up as like another one of those moments just to pause and reflect, like, hey, where do I actually have that judgment inside myself that I'm portraying out to someone else? And our soul, God, will always provide anything in front of us to be able to look again inside. The work is always inside.
And we can go back to the experiment I had mentioned at the beginning, which was now to reflect on the ages, look at the different photographs of yourself and see where did those judgments start. Because you'll be able to see in those pictures, as life evolved for yourself, where did those judgments come in?
It's so powerful, actually, to go back and do that, because I have done that. But I've noticed, remembering what I was thinking about myself during those times, but not necessarily from this context, but I've done that over and over. I'm like, God, man, I remember looking back and how terrible I felt about myself or my body, or I felt like I was ugly or I was fat or whatever during that time period. And I'm like, and then I'm like, man, I'd love to look like that again or whatever. It's like, where was that love now? It's like, and I still have that. Now I can look back and just with gratitude, like, wow, actually it was really, I looked good then. And where was all that judgment coming from?
And then now what can you tell? Now what would you say to that younger self? Right? What are the things you would want to tell your younger self?
It's a distinct difference. My son Andrew was 9 years old when we went through our divorce, and it's a distinct difference when I can look at the photographs of his first 9 years and then immediately from 9 years after. There's a distinct difference in the shift of energy. And it's whatever the emotions that were happening during our divorce and what was happening at him during that time, I can see that directly in photographs of that shift of energy in his face. So we're going to cover the rest of those. We'll have people go to the website to look at those, but I want you to, what else, I mean, just in the few minutes that we have left, what else, what's like pressing, besides saying the prayer at the end, or the blessing at the end?
The next thing I was going to share with, which I think is so profound, is really why we're all here. And it's the soul-to-soul connection. And when we can realize why we've been given our gifts in this lifetime, whether it's knowledge or abundance, or you're a superstar, or you're doing a podcast, you're a jeweler, you're making coffee, you're a landscaper. One, as we shared, we're all the same. But when we can realize those are the gifts we are given to touch another soul, to connect, really have that soul-to-soul connection. And again, as Marla and I were sharing with you earlier, to make that person feel like they matter, they feel like they're loved, they are just as important as anyone else in this world, and you watch them fill up. That's what brings us our bliss.
It's a fun game to play too.
It
like
is.
how much can you fill up somebody else?
I like that you say it's a game, but it's not, because it's not, I need another $1 trillion, a bigger house, another car. And I'm not saying don't work for those things. I
say it a game because it's like, it's fun to watch that transformation come across somebody's face when you fill them up or you acknowledge them or connected with them. I remember a few months ago when I was at Whole Foods, and just the person behind the counter that was helping me, and we just engaged in this conversation. I just genuine compliment about his hair or something. It was something interesting about it. I don't remember what it was. But just suddenly it sparked this whole conversation between us that would have never happened had I not paused for a moment, acknowledged my gratitude for him being of service and doing what he did. And that was my intention inside. It wasn't something that I said out loud, but it was just complimenting on him on what, and it sparked his whole day up.
And it sparked
Shifted
your, and
me.
it
Yes,
shifted
totally,
you.
just
completely.
it brought you your
And-
Yeah.
bliss.
Yes,
Totally.
and those are the
I
miracles.
remember leaving and walking through the rest of the store, literally just kind of almost on cloud nine
Yes.
Right.
for having had that exchange.
Well, you know what Marla and I say every day. We say we are excited to wake up each day to see what beautiful souls are brought into our lives that we can inspire, uplift, help them get through maybe something much worse than what someone else is going through. And that's what our hearts overflow with that.
And that's what we've done here today.
That's
for sure.
exactly. And it's just, yes, normally we say to your listeners, we need about 9 hours or a
For
long
sure.
weekend to share everything that's going on. But
Well, I look forward to having both of you on again at some point. We'll continue our conversation.
yes.
And would you like to do the blessing?
Yes, of course, of course. So, for your listeners, as we were sharing earlier, and we'll do this now, we're going to hold hands. And these are the blessings and prayers we do when we're holding the intention sticks, or we're standing in a small group, or filling up an entire ballroom. And these are the blessings I'm going to share with all of you right now. First and foremost, that you receive blessings of health and blessings of light and love and courage and strength and everything you need in your life right now to fill up your beautiful heart and soul with unconditional love, which will allow you to fully heal, which will allow you to continue to help so many more brothers and sisters heal, which will unify all mankind and bring us back together as one, so we should all see heaven on earth as it is here now.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Well, from my heart, I love both of you. Thank you very much for being here and for sharing. And thank you for what you're doing in the world.
I know we feel the love.
Thank you.
And this is why we're also here today, which Marla and I share, which is a beautiful ancient Greek proverb, which says, a society grows great when old men plant trees in which they know the shade they will never sit in. And that's why we're here. That's for our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren.
And at some point, we will return
Yes.
and enjoy that beauty.
Yes. And yes, oh,
It
yes.
was something that I'd never really thought about and
Yes.
I'd never said until this week, becoming a grandfather.
Yes.
And as I was praying for my little granddaughter
Yeah.
and in meditation, suddenly the words came out of my mouth, welcome back to earth.
Yes.
May this
Beautiful.
And
be a beautiful, beautiful experience for you.
yes.
Oh, that's
amazing. But this is about us collectively. It's not about Marla and I or you and I. It's about us collectively, because we are all connected in this world. This world doesn't realize all of our souls are connected. So actually, something very profound, it says in the Talmud, when we save one soul, we save the world entirely. That's why we're here. Mm.